Now, China has announced that it is going to increase its military spending by 7%.
Revelation 16, verse 14. For they are domestic spirits, performing signs, which go abroad to the kings of the whole world to assemble them for a battle on the great day of God the Almighty. It contains 4 of the top 10 biggest nations and 7 of the top 10 most populated countries, accounting for more than 60% of the world's population and nearly 25% of its geographical mass. Could the Asian continent be overlooked in the Bible prophecy despite its physical size and population? Unfortunately, this is not the case, because maybe nowhere in the world there is as much ambiguity about the future as in Asia. To know what's next for this region and its peoples, prophetic Bible guidance is vitally required. The socioeconomic and military rise of Asia, particularly China, has been one of the century's monumental shifts. This century is known as the Chinese century. With an estimated population of 1.4 billion people, China's geography and population alone make its progress notable. The People's Republic of China, headed by the Chinese Communist Party, is stretching its muscles and spreading its influence throughout the world at breakneck speed. The same goes with Russia. Russia has already received assistance from China in the shape of increasing oil and coal imports, microchips, satellite photos, and other intelligence. It may now be supplying weapons because avoiding a Russian defeat is in Beijing's interest, according to one analyst. Remember that China was one of the only countries that did not criticize Russia's invasion of Ukraine right away. What does China's new direct involvement in the conflict mean? China's support could undoubtedly maintain Russia's incursion on the battlefield, delivering devastating armaments and aiding Russia in shifting the fight in its favor. It might be assisting in determining how the Western world would react to China's own future ambitions to conquer Taiwan. It also understands that the crisis in Ukraine will serve as a diversion for the West, masking the Chinese Communist Party's savage crackdowns. Both the Chinese and Russian political systems are considered authoritarian, with power centered in the hands of a single, long-serving leader. China is a one-party state run by the Communist Party of China, but Russia is a multi-party system ruled by Putin's United Russia Party. To maintain their position, both regimes have progressively clamped down on domestic dissent and compromised the rule of law. A Russian loss would also reduce Chinese President Xi's incessant warnings about Western nations' downfall. It's in Xi's best interests to prevent this from happening. In any event, it places China against the West, setting the groundwork for further confrontation, if not a global war. At a recent news conference, Jake Sullivan, the Biden administration's senior national security advisor, stated that if the claims are accurate, China would be making a tremendous mistake. They've also utilized disruptive non-military measures to display their power and undermine democratic values. For example, Russia has used internet misinformation campaigns and cyber attacks to meddle in international elections, including the 2016 US presidential election. Meanwhile, China's state-owned media outlets have pushed to cover information shortages in dozens of nations, airing and printing pro-Beijing news. But don't think that it ends there. China and Russia tend to support or at least not oppose each other in the United Nations Security Council, where they both have veto power. Despite having opposing interests in Central Asia, Russia has focused on prompting the security and political stability of allied former Soviet republics, while China has concentrated on strengthening trade and economic development. They've avoided conflict and collaborated on regional security through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. China has profited enormously from the present international order and wishes to change it rather than overthrow it in order to better serve its interests. Since joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, Chinese leaders have promoted the country's growth as a peaceful rise, aimed at avoiding armed war with the US and its allies. It has tried to compete with the US to strengthen economic and diplomatic connections with nations across the world through its Belt and Road Initiative, and to promote a vision of win-win cooperation. Furthermore, it has been more involved in international institutions such as the United Nations. So what can we say about China from a biblical point of view? According to a biblical point of view, this engagement would strengthen the Gog coalition, according to prophecy. As Russia and Iran strengthen their connections with Israel, China, whom might be the kings of the East, mentioned in Revelation 16, would finish military manpower and weaponry in both the Gog-Magog assault and Armageddon, the gathering of the kings of the world to gather them together for the war of the great day of God, the Almighty, for the earth's ultimate struggle is described in Revelation chapter 16 verse 14. China's significance is already mentioned in the Bible prophecy. Their possible participation in Ukraine indicates that additional puzzle pieces may be coming into fit. So, will there be an emergence of a superpower in Asia before the end of times? Probably yes. The world events will take a stunning turn in the next few years. A massive Asian powerhouse, led by a modernized Russia and China, will radically alter the path of history. This growing power bloc, a conglomeration of peoples representing more than half of the world's population, will be heavily involved in the turbulent flow of events that will bring mankind's 6,000-year reign to an end. But how can we say this? Jesus Christ outlined the important events building up to his return in Matthew 24 and Luke 21. Many more photographs provide important details in which Russia, China, and other Asian allies are expected to play a significant role in these climactic end-of-the-world events. Speaking of that, Daniel 11 also mentions a monarch who is involved in a military struggle with the king of the south and the king of the north. This king is the last antichrist, the ruler of the resurrected Roman Empire, who has already invaded Israel and is engaged in a mop-up campaign in North Africa in the realm of the king of the south. The prophecy in Daniel chapter 11 verse 44 says, "But then the news from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in great anger to destroy and obliterate many." While not every detail is revealed, many prophecy researchers think this news from the east foreshadows a military invasion from the Far East. Although it's plausible, keep in mind that the Antichrist is in North Africa at the time. Therefore, the area to the north and east is Israel. As a result, this most likely alludes to an insurgency in Israel that the Antichrist travels forth to crush, rather than an invasion from the kingdoms of the east. And where to find Russia in the Bible? It has been predicted by Ezekiel about 25,000 years ago that specific events will occur in Russia's future. It's also mentioned with a long list of nations that will attack Israel. None of these nations are called Russia. This word is not found anywhere in the Bible. However, a reference to Rosh in verse 2 is a shortened version of the word Russia. The Bible describes Rosh as being far to the north of Israel, which was also the reference point of Ezekiel in the beginning. Both Ezekiel and Daniel describe Israel's end times aggressor from the north. Daniel used the phrase as the king of the north to give a picture of the commander of alliance, Daniel chapter 11 verse 5 through 35. Ezekiel's prophecy gives support to Daniel's, indicating the invading armies that will arrive in Israel from the far north. Ezekiel chapter 36 verse 6 and verse 15. Now, if we match this whole description with today's world's geographics, we would certainly find out that Russia is being the sole country that matches that description. Matthew chapter 24 verse 4 through 8. Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they will deceive many. You are going to hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, because these things must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these events are the beginning of birth pains. Revelation chapter 6 verse 4. Then another horse went out, a fiery red one, and its horseman was empowered to take peace from the earth, so that people would slaughter one another, and a large sword was given to him. The Bible predicts that the preparations for the attack of China upon the Middle East and Israel involve a combination of human and angelic events. With China making itself ready with other nations, we can say that a great event might occur in the near future. Yes, we know what the next world war will bring for Asia, more specifically for China. But what about the nearer future? Is there any evidence that such a great unity is possible? If this is the case, we may be certain that Armageddon is approaching. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to be always updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again soon in another video.